what's up? This is Seafood Cuddle, and for this tutorial we're going to be working with the Chinese broadsword, and we're also going to be doing the reverse flower. Now this one is the more difficult flower to do. If you've already learned the upward flower, this is going to be a little bit easier. If you have not done this yet, go back and check out one of my other videos. I have a tutorial about that there. You can get that down because that'll make this a little bit more difficult if you don't have any experience in spinning the sword. Now this is the fancier one, so we're going to break it down into a couple of sections. First section, I want you to just get used to spinning the sword next to your body. Now think of front side and back side of the body. You want to just spin the sword around the back side of your body, okay? So the outside here. Now loosen up the grip a little bit. You only need to really grab with the index finger and the thumb. This doesn't mean when you're attacking someone that's the only way you hold the sword, but you're going to need that extra flexibility, especially for this part right here. What we're going to do is a simple figure eight. Now, not like the upward flower, how we had the figure eight going upward. This is actually a downward figure eight. But I want you to think about it in almost the exact reverse. We're going to use the spine of the sword to actually come down this way. So if you notice, my blade's still pointing up. So I'm going to bring the spine down, and then once it rolls over, I'm going to chop down. So from the front side of the body, from the inside to out, I use the spine of the sword. Once I bring it down, I'm going to chop down diagonally. Now some styles like to do diagonal, diagonal, and then the flower, the flip over. But the way I learned this and the way I like to teach it is actually to use the back of the sword to come down. Think of a block or a redirect flinging, and then you can come back across and chop. Okay? So again, we're just going to do this in a nice figure eight. Come down diagonal, flip the blade over, chop down diagonal, block down diagonal, chop down diagonal. This one is actually pretty easy to do. If you practice this, it's just adding a little extra step, and we have the full reverse flower. This part, we're going to combine the two movements, okay? So, using the spine of the sword, we're going to block down. Now this is the point where instead of coming back right away, we're going to flip the blade over with that first section that we had rolling here. Okay, so you're going to block with the spine of the sword, flip it over, again, still on the outside of the body, my back side, not coming across yet, and then I'm going to turn and bring it across to the front. Okay, so again, let's block down, chop down. This is on this comes over to the back side of the body before it chops down. This is the movement itself, and then we reset. Okay? Now an easier way to make the transition is to actually take the tip of the sword and point straight down once we come across. So once I block down, I'm going to turn my hand all the way over. Almost like I give it a thumbs down. Okay? So my hand is in this position. I don't want to try to do too much to turn the wrist around. So block down, flip it over. Okay? Again, block down, flip it over, and it points straight down. Again, block down and flip it over. If you want to practice something to get this flower down, it's just in those two moves. Then you can work on bringing the sword back and going right back into it. That's actually the full transition into the regular flower, the regular reverse flower as we call it. So block down, flip it over, point it down. Now just think of bringing that blade back across. This is just through waist rotation and the shoulder itself. Sometimes you get a little extra flexibility and you end up putting it behind the back here. Though this is not too much of an issue, try not to, with the short weapons, put it in your armpit. That's something more reserved for when you have a long weapon and you have to use the armpit to kind of close the distance a little bit so you don't have such a long weapon reaching out. You'd catch it on the ground. The sword is short enough that all you have to do is turn the body. Okay, so as you get used to block down, turn over, turn, block down, turn over, turn, block down, turn over, turn, you want to try to make it a little bit smoother. Now, again, grip strength is one of the most important things here. You don't want to over grip the sword. That's going to make it very tough to bring it around and over, and it's going to wear your arm out very quickly. So eventually you're going to use index finger a little bit, more of the middle finger and ring finger as you get into this. And the hand will have to open a little bit, so now it's index finger and thumb, and then once I flip over, it's middle finger and ring finger to bring it back across. Not to say that my hand is only in these positions when I'm bringing the sword around, but this is where I'm actually squeezing the handle on the sword. So as you do this, pay attention to your grip. Another tip is to pay attention to using the waist. So flexibility actually is it's more or less without the sword, you're gonna look like this, bringing the hand across. And once you put the sword in your hand, if you focus on just turning the shoulder from side to side, you're gonna find a lot more fluidity to the movement itself. All right, one more tip. The guard hand. No matter what you're doing with the sword, you could be doing the coolest looking thing in the world. If you have the guard hand be lazy and hang out here, it takes away from the entire technique. So, bring your hand back in a set position, maybe at the base of the ribs or down at the waist. You can have a guard hand position, you can put it by your shoulder, you can put it over your head, any of these positions, but pay attention. Remember, a martial artist is in control of all limbs at the same time. So be in control of your sword spinning and the opposite hand, okay? Typically, I would keep it next to the shoulder to have the protection here, or in some of the forms, you have your hand back in a set position. All right, so there you have it. This is the reverse flower. There's other names that it goes by. I think I've heard of the 3-beat in poi. I've heard of the obi Annie spin with lightsabers. There's lots of different ways to explain this one. But in the Choi Lei Fut system and in a lot of Chinese Kung Fu, we call sword spinning or weapon spinning, we call them flowering. So have fun with this one. This will translate over to many different weapons, long weapons, short weapons, and flexible weapons. But it's really nice to get it down with the sword first. That way you can be comfortable in any weapon you use. All right, practice this one up, and I'll see you guys next time.
Bam! Fist with a forward.